What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am John, the creative blue collar guy. Thank you so much for tuning in for this video. I'm going to pull some snippets from my most recent Mixtape Mondays live stream, which, if you are not aware, every Monday I go live at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, California time, whatever you want to call it. And this most recent one, we talked about the 30th anniversary of the MTV Unplugged Nirvana performance that was just a extra special crowning achievement of the band, of the series MTV Unplugged. I know not a lot of people necessarily want to rewatch an entire hour-long live stream, so I'm going to pull some clips. We're going to condense this thing down because I definitely want to commemorate this monumental anniversary of this very, very special performance. But really quick, before we get into that, if you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Please take a second to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications, make sure that is set to all so you get notified every time I post a video, every time I go live, every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And as always, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this. Like and share this out there for others to see. But let's go ahead and get into it, and let's talk Nirvana MTV Unplugged 30 years later. So we have the Nirvana MTV Unplugged in New York performance to talk about. So it was filmed on, and it's actually funny, I just got to help kind of promote this a little bit, I did just a YouTube short on Saturday, at 30th anniversary of the special airing, because I have the vinyl here, which I think Roman also has his handy. Picked this up a couple years ago from a local secondhand record store here. So I just did a quick little YouTube short of me putting the record on and saying, hey, we're going to be talking about this on Monday, but today, Saturday, the 16th, was the 30th anniversary. Someone just commented on it before we started the stream. It goes, well, actually, I think it was November 18th. Well, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. It says it was filmed on November 18th, 1993. It aired on MTV December 16th, 1993.
So they've
December
re-released
16th.
this album, by the way. If you don't have it, they've re-released the vinyl, I think probably for the 30th anniversary. So it is out there in the wild again. Go find it.
So and it's kind of funny, like one of the first notes I have here on my notes about this was saying how like the band was actually, Nirvana was reluctant to even do this performance because, as we all know, like they famously kind of rejected a lot of the mainstream, not that they weren't happy to be making a living doing something that they loved, but they rejected a lot of the the record labels saying, oh well, to be popular, your song has to only be 3 minutes long, and it has to have a catchy hook, and it has to, and you gotta be out there and be all bright, shiny, happy people and stuff and everything. And they're just like, well, no, it's like we want to make the music we want to make, and if people like our music, then great, they like it. But it's like they didn't want to conform to what the industry says they have to do. So they said they're kind of reluctant to do the show because it was typically used to promote a new album, to which I guess In Utero had just been released. So they had a new album to promote, but they didn't like the format of how, so like I know, Roman, you're not a Pearl Jam fan, whatever, but I remember not too long ago going back and revisiting the Pearl Jam MTV Unplugged, and they pretty much did just do that. Like when they played Even Flow, they played Even Flow the way it sounds on the album, just with acoustic instruments. Like they play, like they didn't make like acoustic renditions of their songs. They just played them as if they were playing them on their electric guitars, but just on acoustic. And Nirvana was like, well, we don't want to do that. We want to do something unique. We want to do different renditions. They wanted to do deep cuts. They did a bunch of cover songs, and the MTV producers and the executives were just like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like they're doing like cover songs, they're doing deep cuts. Like they totally expected them to just come out and be like, okay, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Come As You Are,
I'm so glad they
all
didn't
this
do
stuff,
that.
just like
For me, honestly, my favorite tracks on this whole thing are the other tracks, the
The
oddball tracks.
covers.
I know About a Girl is a Nirvana track, but he announces it. This is from our first album. No one owns it, and he's not wrong. Bleach was a really, especially at that time, no one knew. Even if you had Teen Spirit, you probably didn't know Bleach. But About a Girl was off of Bleach, and so I mean, but the songs that have the least interest for me are the standard Nirvana songs. The other ones I think are just, they blow me away. They are so interesting.
Yeah.
And what I will say just in general though, Kurt, and I know he was going through some stuff while this was filming. His voice
Oh, we'll
control
get to that.
was
Yeah.
very, very good.
And this is the perfect opportunity to do deep cuts and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
new
man.
stuff.
Don't do the normal shit.
Yeah, don't do the album acoustically. Do a few to appease people. But yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to take a deep cut off one of your albums. Like your like a lot of bands, they have an album that comes out before the big one, but never gets released. It's like your demo. Yeah, your demo stuff. You can rework your demo stuff and change it up a little bit and play it live like this. This is the perfect vehicle for that. And I think that's why the Nirvana one stands out the most. They didn't do just their songs acoustically. They did other stuff. They're musicians, not just corporate. Again, the corporate.
And I think that like they chose
that.
the songs that their songs that they chose to do and the covers that they chose to do lent themselves better to the acoustic format. Like we're saying, it's like they could have just come out and been like, we're going to open up with Smells Like Teen Spirit, but on acoustic guitars. And it probably like, okay, they would have pulled it off, but it would have been kind of like, okay, like that just smells like Teen Spirit on an acoustic guitar. Like, but you know, it's like they talk about how the MTV was unhappy with, oh, you guys are you're supposed to just do your hits, you're supposed to promote the new album or whatever. But then also on top of that, the only guests that they had, so they added in Pat Smear was there on guitar, but I think he had actually been added kind of as like an actual band member at that time. I think he had been touring with them, but I think they had just barely been like, okay, like he's gonna now be like a fourth member, like he's in the band. So Pat Smear was there, later went on to join Dave Grohl in Foo Fighters. But then their guests, the only like special guests they had were the guys from the Meat Puppets, and they did a couple of their songs and then some covers and stuff. And again, MTV is like, no, like you're supposed to have like Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains or like any other like grunge band that was like relevant. Then they're like, we don't know who these guys are, like you can't have these people as your guests. And they're like, but these guys are our friends, so we want to have them on the show. And
and they just came out and took over the instruments. They just it was just the guitarist and the bass player. Dave still played drums, but it's just the guitarist and the bass player came out and took over.
There were let's see if I can
Chris
pull these
instruments.
up. There were a couple of tracks there where Dave played bass. See if I can find the picture. So there's one or two songs where Dave does play bass and guitar.
When homie's playing the freaking accordion, Dave takes over the bass, and he's just doing a bass drum and a snare. He's like a one-man band back there doing that. Like boom.
And so here's the funny thing too, is like the images of Chris playing the accordion. It's like he's already kind of like a tall, lanky, like goofy looking dude anyways. Now he's got this accordion strapped onto his chest, and I'm like, God, he's so goofy looking. But yeah, they did kind of do a little bit of a Chinese fire drill on the instruments for some of the guys. And I thought it was interesting too. I read specifically when they did the song Lake of Fire with the guys from the Meat Puppets, Kurt Cobain said he didn't want to change the key to a more comfortable key. Like he said, he wanted to struggle vocally. Like, so that performance that we get from him is him like straining and like struggling to hit those notes. But that was a conscious choice where he's like, I could change the key. He's like, no, he's like, I want it to sound like this. I want this to be like, he wanted to like reach for it.
Well, it's interesting because when they did Pennyroyal Tea, when he starts the song, he's like, am I doing this by myself?
Right.
He did. He played Pennyroyal Tea. He played the entire song is just him, and the other guys wandered off. I don't know if it was like a smoke break or whatever.
They all took a smoke break. Really interesting. But yeah, real quick, Justin. First of all, I think you are. I'm not sure if I've seen you in the chat before, so welcome. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I agree. Like they're big hits: In Bloom, Teen Spirit, all I totally support all of their song choices in this entire performance, because it was like if they had just come out and played their big hits and their videos that were on MTV, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have hit the same. It wouldn't have been the same special performance that I think it was. But also, Roman, I think you already kind of touched on it a little bit, where you said Kurt was dealing with some of his own stuff during this performance. So this was one of the times where Kurt Cobain was trying to get sober. So he was going through withdrawals during this performance, so much so that within 24 hours of the performance, because they only had 2 days of rehearsals, as far as like on the set, on that stage, 2 days of rehearsals, 24 hours before they were supposed to film, Kurt was like, that's it, I'm not doing it. He just like pulled the plug and was like, I'm not doing it. And then the next day just showed up. Was like, all right, let's do this. But
God.
I was trying to find this article, and I couldn't find it, because I think I read it when it was like the 25th anniversary of this performance. But I swear I read an article somewhere once that actually said that MTV execs and producers and employees sent people out to
I
get
heard that.
heroin for Kurt just to get him through the performance. And I was like, that is so disgusting. That's like, they're like, we don't care what happens to this guy, we need to film our special. Like,
Get him his fix. Come on.
yeah, no big deal, just a couple hits, you'll be all right, just get through the show. And then
Lord.
I believe it. I remember that guitar because I remember the guy from Hee Haw had that American flag guitar.
Oh,
Not
the one
Ric
that
Flair,
American flag guitar,
the other one. Buck Owens, was that his name?
Buck Owens. Yeah, Buck Owens.
He had
Oh,
a
Yeah, the one that
guitar.
Patch Beer
Like
had been playing
There
on.
we
Yeah,
go.
and that guy from Meat Puppets.
I remember seeing that. I know that guitar. What? But
I always
yeah,
think it's interesting the way Kurt he's playing a right-handed guitar, but he's left-handed, so that's why it's upside down. So he just
Yeah,
restrings it as opposed to getting a left-handed guitar, because left-handed
right.
it's
Well, I
a
mean,
pain in the ass. That's one of those
that's
things.
famously, what Jimi Hendrix did. I mean, every
Mhm.
picture you see of Jimi Hendrix, he's playing a right-handed Fender Stratocaster that he just strung upside down. Interesting facts about the guitar that Kurt played in this performance. The guitar that Kurt played was a 1959 Martin D18E, which is a model they still make to this day. But um, at that point in time, the 1959 ones, they only made about 300 of them in that particular year, where it
Oh
actually had
wow.
like the visible pickups and humbuckers on top of the guitar and the volume knobs. Because again, you can kind of see, if I had saved a better picture of it, you would have been able to see. But
there.
it has volume
He's
knobs mounted on the top of the guitar, which is not normal for an acoustic guitar, but they're at the top because it's a right-handed guitar. But they say they only made 300 of them in the year 1959, which is the one Kurt is playing. There's estimated only 25 still in existence today. His
Wow.
daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, was in possession of the guitar and gifted it to a now ex-husband as a wedding gift. The judge upheld the fact that it was given as a gift and he had now legal ownership to it. That jackwagon just went and auctioned it off for over $6 million in 2020.
Yeah.
Yep, I saw that.
And now she's
God.
married to Tony Hawk's son.
No, I heard that this wasn't fully acoustic.
So right there where I have it circled, Kurt Cobain, and that's even a better picture of the guitar. There we go. Now you got the volume knobs are up at the top. It had the pickup switcher. You could even see the humbuckers are literally mounted to the body of the guitar. And that's how Martin made and released this guitar in 1959. It was often described as Kurt's amp and his pedals as being like his security blanket. He was famously like a pretty shy, pretty introverted guy. So like for him to be the lead singer of a popular band was like kind of an out of character thing for him. So to do this performance, he still wanted to have his pedals and he still wanted to have his amp in front of him. So where I have this circled in this picture, his amp is right in front of him, but they built like a wooden box around it so it would look like part of the set. So you can hear it specifically on when he does a solo on Come As You Are. There's some chorus effect on there. And then especially when they do the David Bowie cover, there's overdrive on his acoustic guitar. So you can hear like he was using pedals, he was using effects and stuff. So it's never going to be completely unplugged, because otherwise how the hell are they going to record the audio and broadcast it on television? You know, like
Yeah.
they obviously recorded an album and released it as an album on CD, vinyl, DVD, whatever. Like
No, everybody has their thing.
also,
And like I said, it wasn't, to me, it was like, okay, it wasn't a big deal.
no, and I think that's very like a negligible thing to even bring up. But again, you know, everyone wants to nitpick and so yeah. So Justin pointed out the fuzz guitar during "The Man Who Sold the World." Yeah, that was like the most telltale. But funny enough, is like since that performance aired and was released on album, that's like become one of the singles from the live album. Like a local radio station here in San Diego still plays that song almost every single day.
Oh yeah,
because it was such a good cover of, you know, of a David Bowie song.
that's the version
all the
of the song that I think of in my head when I think of the song. I don't even think of the Bowie version, which is terrible. I
Right.
think of the Nirvana Unplugged version.
And so, you know, too, talking about how like his amp and his pedals were like his security blanket, you know, and like if you just recently rewatched this performance, you notice the whole time he's playing, the whole time he's singing, he's very much like looking down at the ground. He's looking like he never really like looks up at the crowd. He never really looks up at the camera. But one of the most, I think to me, like the most powerful, one of the most iconic moments in the whole performance is the last song, the "Where Did You Sleep Last Night." Gets through the whole song and gets that big, really dramatic crescendo at the end. And right when he pauses, where it's like, what's the line? It says like, you know, something something the whole night through, whatever. He pauses for just a moment, and then for the first time in the entire performance, briefly looks up, then looks back down and finishes the line. The whole night through, the band kind of jams for a couple more minutes in that. But this moment is seriously, it's like one of the only times that he looks up and like looks out. Like it doesn't look directly at the camera, but like actually looks at the audience. And after that moment, you know, so another interesting fact too that all kind of ties into this is typically when bands would do the unplugged performance, they would do multiple takes. So they would maybe like record the whole performance, or they'd go back and, oh, let's redo that song, let's redo that song. Nirvana, I don't know if they were the only band to do it, but they're one of the only bands that the whole 45-minute performance was all done in one take. There were no reshoots. There was no, oh, let's go back and redo that
that's
one. Let's
great
get like
too.
they did the whole thing in one shot as if they were just doing a concert and then walked off stage. So this
And
moment,
I think that's the
they
way it should have
finished-
been done. A one shot.
I would think so.
This is it.
Yeah, because it's
This is
like
it.
you
This
have
is the raw performance.
practice, rehearse, get ready, like you're putting on a concert, you're putting on a show, you know, whatever. But this moment here, like, okay, they finished with "Where Did You Sleep Last Night?" It was a big finish for the show, and they walk off stage and they go back, and the producers are arguing with Kurt, going, "Well, you guys got to go back out there. You got to do an encore." And he's like, "No." He's like, we're not gonna top that. That was the end. Like that's it. We're done. He just like he argued with them because they were like, you have to go. He's like, you have to do an encore, and he's like, no. He's like, we're not gonna do anything better than that last song. That's the end of it. Like,
yeah, and it was, and see, that's the artist knowing better than the TV management team. They want you back out there. Of course they do, because they want to get that extra time.
of course, yeah.
But you know when you've peaked. You know when you've peaked. Often they'll come back and they'll do their encores, but the encores are planned. If it's planned encore, they're still planning the end of that to be the high note. Almost every band plans their encores. They didn't want an encore for this. That was it. That was what
No,
you
the
were
set
getting.
list was planned out.
And
They're like, this is what we're playing. There's a beginning, middle, end, and that was the crescendo, and we're done.
And what a high note that was. I mean, that was such a brilliant performance.
It's still like I'm getting chills just thinking about it sitting here right now. Like it was such a good way to end the performance.
Yeah, they only played 3 songs. I was looking at the list. They only played 3 songs of In Utero.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, you know, how much of that kind of got forced on them, or if that's what they actually wanted to do. Because the rest of the choices for the playlist are so weird and interesting.
But I remember reading some stuff too about how tensions were kind of high within the band, specifically between
Oh yeah, yeah,
Kurt
yeah.
and Dave. Yeah, so here Dave is playing these sticks that he's playing with. If you guys don't know, those are known as hot rods. And so they're basically smaller individual little wooden sticks, and the red part is they're kind of like taped together. So the idea, the way they market them, is there's supposed to be some middle ground in between like a normal solid wood drumstick and then like the brushes that like jazz players use to get that like swooshing sound on the
Mhm.
snare drum. So they're a little bit softer and stuff. And then of course, Dave's wearing his sweet turtleneck, looking like kind of a nerdy beat. Um, but there were a lot of reports and a lot of stories too. And again, it's like maybe this is part of Kurt, coming down from his heroin withdrawals and stuff. Like maybe the drums were just like banging in his head or something. But they'd be rehearsing and they'd be playing a song, and Kurt would like turn around to Dave and like, could you play a little bit softer? And
Oh
he'd start
yeah.
playing again, like, could you play a little bit soft? And he kept doing that, kept doing that. They were finally like, there's this one story I read where Dave just like threw his hands in the air and he's like, what am I even doing here? Like,
Well, no, I mean, I get it. He did play with brushes for part of the set as well.
yeah.
He changed. He kind of just depending on what he was doing, he would change up. I mean, right there, you could see he's using regular sticks.
But what's
But he
funny
did
is
more of
like
a
when I was
tap thing. He didn't really do a regular
yeah.
beat during that.
What was funny though is like when I was rewatching the performance on Saturday, you can even see when he's playing, like he's all like hunched up and like tense and like he's just like trying so hard to like play soft. And I'm like, he looks so uncomfortable this whole time. Like he's just not having a good time.
Yeah, that
He's
cannot
also
be
the only one who
easy.
sang backup, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that cannot be a good time if
Mm.
you're trying to do your
Or holding
thing
back.
and yeah, and you're getting balled out by the lead singer. After a while, they'd be like, okay, fuck it, no drums, total acoustic,
Yeah, right.
we have some fucking
But,
bongos,
yeah. And then okay, so like the picture I've got pulled up right now, they talked about how that the set design was also Kurt Cobain's idea, where he specifically asked for it to be decorated with like the flowers and the candles and everything, to which one of the producers asked her, like, oh, you mean like a funeral? And his response was exactly like a funeral, which is where people start to try to speculate that they think he kind of knew the headspace that he was in and what he was going to do in April. We're not going to get too deep into that because that's a whole other rabbit hole. I don't believe Kurt Cobain killed himself. If you have not seen it, go seek out the documentary Soaked in Bleach. That's all I have to say about that.
Yes, agreed.
Lots of very interesting information in that about we'll never know for sure. We'll never know for sure, but it definitely shines a bright light on a lot of stuff that kind of makes you go, huh.
But I did want to ask, just because I know I have mine on this. What are your favorite tracks off of this?
Right off the top of my head, before I even look it up, Lake of Fire is definitely a big one.
Mhm.
Love Lake of Fire. I think I would say probably that, like Lake of Fire and Where Did You Sleep Last Night are two big major high
Yeah.
points for me.
The Bowie cover, it's about all I remember from it.
Really? So you've got About a Girl, which was the one off Bleach, which I actually do like. That Come As You Are was fine. It was for me. It's basically a throwaway track. Just it's
That
not
was them. I
terrible,
think that was
but
them
it's
trying to satisfy the
yep,
producers. Like,
and it's
Yeah, I
fun.
didn't care about that.
Jesus Don't Want Me for a Sunbeam. That is a great track. He just leans into the whole thing. It is just such a fun take on this. I think it's an old spiritual that someone else they like did and they do it like them is the way he introduced it. It's just and then of course The Man Who Sold the World I love. Penny Royalty fine.
yeah.
Again that was just Kurt on
That
his
one's good. I like that one.
on his
Yeah.
guitar. Dumb
Ooh, and
Polly.
something in the way. Something in the way was really good. Because it just makes you want to hum along when it's something in
That
the
yeah,
way.
and that's
That's
but you're
a
right.
good
Like you
one
That's
just
too.
one of
want to
those
hum along
songs
with it. Like,
that lends itself really well to this format.
yeah.
I think better than I think Penny Royalty that did as well though. Plateau. So was it Plateau? Oh Me and Lake of Fire are all meat
Mhm.
puppets, which is interesting. You got you got a third of the album I'm sorry, a fourth of the album is fucking meat puppets. All Apologies. I don't even remember All Apologies, which is weird. But then Where Do You Sleep Last Night? That is That is such a powerhouse.
That was the crescendo. That was the end where he was like, "No encore. Like this is
Yeah,
that's
man.
it,
They
that's it." And
actually,
even
I
Justin, same thing. He said it was fantastic. You can just
it,
hear the
it was
pain in his
it,
voice, which I
man.
wonder if that was a little bit of him like actually taking a jab at his wife.
But this was such a beautiful way to get exposed to bands. For new fans and old fans, you got this weird and wonderful performance out of someone, and you could go and investigate them after that. We can do it better now today as far as that part of it goes. But back in the day, you still had ways. But
Well,
you've
and
lost this format. So Nirvana's Unplugged. You know, you're not going to, again, maybe I'm wrong, but you're not going to see something like this again because it's high production value. You're getting something that looks great, that has a really nice sound to it. You're not getting some wonky, shitty, guy in his backyard sound, but you're getting something unique because these are tracks that the studio didn't want them to play, but the band wanted to play. And it's just such
yeah,
an
the
interesting
fact that
package
like
together.
the fact that they pushed back and said, like, no, like this is what we want to do, and they allowed him to do it because it's like, what was the alternative if they pushed back and
Well, I guess Nirvana's
and then it,
leaving.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
like if MTV pushed back, like I said earlier, Kurt was already like within 24 hours of the
Yeah,
performance, Kurt Cobain was totally like, I'm not doing it, I'm not showing up. So then all of a sudden they're like, well, what do we do? And then he showed up day of, like, all right, let's do this thing. But like if MTV had pushed back, and then if they were just like, fine, like we're gonna walk, like I don't know what the contract was. I don't know if they would have
yeah. Who
gotten
pissed off
like some
Nirvana?
kind of,
Who pissed off Nirvana?
I don't know if like they could have like fined them or something for not fulfilling a contract. I don't know what the
Probably
contract
they
was,
wouldn't
but
get
it's
given a
like they
fuck. But yeah,
totally could have just thrown their hands in the air and said, "We're not doing the show." So as much as they didn't like it, they let Nirvana do what they wanted to do, and it's the reason why we're talking about this performance right now. It's the reason
30
why
years
30
later.
years
Yeah.
later it's
yeah.
such a special moment. It's such a special performance that it's like they said, okay, we're gonna let you do what you want to do. And it was unique, it was different, it is timeless, it's long standing. Like it's 30 years later, we got three guys sitting in their homes talking about it, and it was just like why it was such an important and such a special performance. And even from so like when I was posting on Twitter earlier, I don't think I'll ever not call it Twitter. Matt had commented also saying that yes, like the Alice in Chains performance was
Yeah.
equally, if not more important. And I'm not going to argue like which one was better. Which one, they're both amazing. Alice in Chains one was amazing. The Nirvana one was amazing. But what I said in the comments on Twitter was that I think one of the key things that makes the Nirvana performance a little bit extra special is that because Kurt died so shortly after the airing of this, after the recording, and because this was, recorded in November, aired in
Yeah.
December.
4 months
He died
later.
4 or 5 months later in April. So just the fact that it was like this was such a major pivotal moment in the career of the band, and then Kurt Cobain is gone. We don't know what the future could have held for Nirvana as a band, Kurt Cobain as an artist. Like, would he have gone on and done solo albums? Would the band have done an acoustic album like in a studio? I wish I could have found it, but again, digging through the interwebs, it's sometimes you see something and then it's gone forever and you can't find it. I remember
Oh yeah,
seeing
no,
an
I get
interview.
that.
It was like one of the last interviews that Kurt Cobain did before his passing, where he was just like talking about how he's like, yeah, he's like, I picture myself growing to be, an old man, just like sitting on my front porch with an acoustic guitar. And,
Man,
so I
fucking
just like,
sucks.
I kind of wonder what direction, the band would have gone, but then also like, would he have done
Yeah,
solo
as far as the
albums
individual groups.
aside? Would he have
Yeah, because
just
if he
gone
had
out and
left
released
and
an
done his
album
own
just as
thing,
Kurt Cobain? And
yep,
so I
Grohl
think
could have still done what he did.
the unknown factor of what Kurt Cobain could have been, what Nirvana might have become after this,
Yeah.
I think it's that like extra little bit of unknown of this could have been like a major step forward of like maybe something that they were like dabbling in and like sticking their toe in the water, but the world will never know. So while the Alice in Chains performance is equally fantastic and wonderful and special, they had already kind of had their issues and had kind of fizzled because of
Mhm.
Lane's
Mhm.
deteriorating state. They managed to get it together, do this show. I think they maybe tried to do some other tours. They never released another album with Lane, and then he passed in 2001.
Mhm.
Really creepily enough, on the same day as Kurt Cobain, years apart, but Kurt Cobain and Lane Staley died on the same day in April. It's
Oh, I
really
didn't know
weird.
that. Was it the
Yeah,
4th or the
it's weird.
6th? It was either the 4th or the 6th. I get
I
the
I
if I'm not
I
mistaken,
forget the exact
one of those 2.
day, but I just know
Yeah,
that it was like Kurt was 94, Lane Staley I think it was 2001, but it
yeah.
was the same day in April, and that's really
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
weird. All right, so there you have it. That is our discussion about 30 years of the MTV Unplugged performance from Nirvana in New York. If you are new here, thank you so much for watching this video this far through. Please take a second to hit that subscribe button on your way out. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to set to all so you get notified every time I post a new video and every time I go live, which is every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's a big secret, but you can tell other people. And as always, please drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Like and share this video out there for others to see. I am John, the Creative Blue Collar Guy, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you being here and watching this video. I will see you next time. Cheers.